As you look at the interjection of AI into the environment, businesses are using it, organizations are leveraging all the different models. They're trying to figure out how to work smarter, not harder. From an OT perspective, it's being used, I would say, against manufacturers and against organizations equally as fast, if not faster, than organizations can use it to help deter nefarious actors as they are trying to siphon off some of the IP.
Welcome to the Industrial Cybersecurity Insider. In each episode, we dive into the world of industrial cybersecurity. Join us as we cover the latest trends, innovations, and practical insights as we talk with leaders and practitioners across the industry. Gear up and let's get into this week's episode.
Hi, I'm Craig Duckworth.
And I'm Dino.
Today, Dino, you know what? I don't know. Well, yeah, I do know. Let's talk about IoT stuff. There's more and more IoT things that are beginning to affect the industrial networks, how we control them, how they're being integrated in, how AI is playing with those IoT assets to affect both the red team and blue team on the plant floor and the industrial side. How's that sound?
IoT, right? We just recently found out that Dragos bought and acquired Phosphorus IO, right? Who's really big in the IoT space, right? So they're trying to cast a wider net in as far as their OT cybersecurity platform on how to gain access to another wide range of Internet of Things devices that are in these manufacturing plants. And then actually be able to do something about patching them at scale, right? Which I would say you're never going to want to do that with controllers on a PLC that's driving your packaging lines or your fillers and your reactors and your mixing and blending systems. I don't see tools like Phosphorus actually taking on the deployment of patching of those systems, right? So with cameras and printers and badge readers, et cetera, yeah, I can see those types of things happening in the big move. But in regards to the broader piece, and I also think IT probably handles most of the IoT assets anyway from a responsibility and support role, right, as part of the organization. Again, when it gets to OT specific, anything below level 3, if you want to use the Purdue model, right, anything below the firewall at that level, the IDMZ, is still 100% fully under control of your OT teams, right? And they're not driving a cybersecurity hygiene improvement strategy. Not that we see, again, you've heard me say many times, as a system integrator, we're not being asked to follow some roadmap to improve cybersecurity hygiene on the projects that we're executing in these manufacturing environments.
Yeah. Well, you're right. But I think that as they are starting to evolve, you look at down on the plant floor where we play below 3.5, there are printers that are printing labels, that are printing date codes, that are printing stuff on food and bev, on various different codes, pharmaceutical, across the board. There are cameras that are being utilized with AI that are maybe tracking specific stuff. There are X-ray machines that are scanning for foreign matter inside food and other products. There are a lot of assets that have firmware that could be exploited that don't necessarily have an operating system per se, which would fall in that IoT bucket.
I think from the boundaries of that IDMZ level 3 OT, labels on a printer, if those printers can't print labels and the packaging line stops, again, that's an OT problem. It's not an IT, it's an OT problem. And that line of demarcation, which is why you see weak passwords and default passwords and unencrypted passwords on those printers. We see those all the time, right? And if IT was managing them, then why aren't they fixing that, right?
And they're not going to be. They're not. That's not they'll manage cameras from a guest access. They'll manage cameras from the perimeter. They'll manage cameras that are doing exterior stuff, I would say. But you're right, down on that lower level, we don't see that often. And there are so many that come with default credentials that are put in and never updated, never changed, never rotated, which kind of goes back to that, in my mind, maybe the reason that Dragos looked at procuring phosphorus from an IoT play is it gives them that capability within their traditional OT space.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll find out more about that in November at Rockwell Automation Fair, because Dragos is usually always there. Clarity is too, but now with the phosphorus acquisition, I'm sure the phosphorus piece will be there. And so we'll get to hear the messaging and the reasons why Dragos picked up phosphorus, right? I looked at phosphorus a few years ago, great tech, we loved it. I mean, but from an OT perspective, it just didn't fit because we knew that you weren't going to push updates to control systems that are actually running your manufacturing environment per se. But again, it's back to services. All right. And Dragos is really big on services. And so if they're the ones that are participating and helping it, just like the DG 360, as we call it, which is a managed services program, is then you're providing a level of services where you got somebody that's actually has oversight of that and is handling it. It's still not, it's just an OT services organization that the client is hired to do that for them. Again, managed services, I think, is the key discussion here. Who should be the ones managing those OT assets from an administrative standpoint to improve your cyber hygiene? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, right? Is improve your cyber hygiene. And in IT, they do it from the peripheral aspect of it down at the core of those control systems, again, down at level 3 and lower in that Purdue model, it's still the responsibility of the OT team and their supply chain of partners to drive that improvement at that level and with that equipment.
Right. Well, another thing that we're starting to see is as you look at the interjection, if you want to call it that, of AI into the environment. Businesses are using it, organizations are leveraging all the different models. They're trying to figure out how to work smarter, not harder. From an OT perspective, it's being used, I would say, against manufacturers and against organizations equally as fast, if not faster, than organizations can use it to help deter nefarious actors as they are trying to siphon off some of the IP. The data is leaving the environment and they're taking IP and they are siphoning information away from organizations. And I don't know that organizations are realizing it's even happening.
Yeah, I mean, the whole intent for this connectivity that we've seen in Industry 4.0 and beyond was getting access to that data on the plant floor, right? Which drove the connectivity that we've seen in these industrial environments. And so, and from an AI perspective, I think that data transitioning from off the plant floor into these large language models that can be used for however the client wants to manipulate that data to help them drive cost efficiencies or improve operations or help with their forecasting or whatever the case may be. I don't think that'll change. You'll just have better tools to at the AI level to do that. The flip side is AI can make it easier for people to develop bad things to happen with assets that are rarely to never patched, that have a tremendous amount of vulnerabilities to them for bad actors to start to be able to develop malware that's specific for certain controllers, certain firmware versions, right? Certain Windows systems, right? I mean, when you think how many Windows 7 machines are still out there, some people would say very few. Yeah, we know some clients that still got a lot of them and rely on those Windows 7 machines to produce their goods all day, every day. And as crazy as they sound, they're out there. All right. And you got PLCs that have been out there for 30 years. And you know the vulnerabilities and risk associated with those. And how hard would it be for somebody to start working with AI and chasing certain vulnerabilities, and all of a sudden it makes it very easy to start attacking those control systems.
Well, you look back 15 years or whenever it was to Stuxnet. Stuxnet was the very first targeted specific to those Siemens PLCs that were running those centrifuges, and they only did they only activated in certain conditions on certain machines under certain programs and certain versions and all of the stuff that made it unique, and the capabilities were there that long ago. So now, to your point, to target specific assets to do exactly what you're saying, to just exfiltrate data off of that machine. Maybe it's the recipe, maybe it's the blueprints, maybe it's information that if there's not a DLP in place, a data loss protection tool that's there that's giving them access to prevent that. Do they even know what's happening? Where maybe you don't care about trash in the environment or ransomware, you just take the IP and build your own and beat them at their own game type scenario.
Again, you brought up Stuxnet. It was up 20 years ago, right? And the development of that malware to do what it was doing was very sophisticated. Nobody ever really stepped up and said, hey, we did that. But everybody knew it was a state-sponsored actor. With AI, now you're able to take that and put that in the hands of people who are sophisticated, who don't need a tremendous amount of resources to build something that can be very disruptive to a specific set of PLCs or SCADA software or DCS. It wouldn't be hard to do at all. Again, because the vulnerabilities and risk associated with those devices is great, right? It's huge. And it's not being dealt with in an effective, efficient manner, again, because if it was, we would know there'd be huge projects coming out of these manufacturers to get as close as they can to the highest patch levels that they can, just like IT would, to improve their cyber hygiene. They would be moving fast and furious, and it's just not happening. Not at scale.
Yeah, no, not at all. And you go back and we talk about some things that you mention frequently. How many times can I walk into a facility with my laptop and I can access all the information that's there and I can use my own stuff? Is there anything on it? Well, statistically, about a third of the incidents are related to contractors, vendors, employees, whatever the situation is, logging on with their own laptops and bringing something nefarious into the environment, or more importantly, USB drive being plugged in and information is taken on that drive out the door, whether it's an employee that's trying to sell it, an employee that doesn't realize it, somebody that's trained to do that. There's all kinds of different ways that this is happening that I don't know that it's being monitored in the fashion that it needs to be.
Well, it's common practice, right? And what I mean by that is common practice for integrators and OEMs to waltz into a plant with their company laptop and go and plug it into that manufacturing network to do whatever they need to do. In IT, you can't do that, right? IoT would never let you do that. It'd be rare, be a very rare occurrence. So think of again, the common practice difference between an IT practice and an OT practice. It's something that is very risky in what they're allowing to happen at that front. On the USB front, we've seen a lot of manufacturers who've recognized, which is crazy when you think about it, it's like they're only solving half the problem, is locking down their USB ports, right? Where they actually put some locking mechanism on the interface of that USB port that requires a key to get it out. I've seen epoxy squirted in there to block it, so anything in there. And yet, they'll still let that OEM or system integrator waltz into that plant and plug their personal laptop right up into that network. You come in with a thumb drive and they're ready to throw you out of the plant, but the laptop's fine.
I know. Well, because a lot of it's the software required by the SIs to be able to perform the task that they have to do on those PLCs or those HMIs or whatever. That's expensive software. Not everybody wants to buy that.
Right. And but we have technologies, right? We've been looking at the CASM stuff and the Steel Dome where you can actually use the client's own applications and data to do that work instead of allowing that OEM or system integrator to come in with their specialized laptop running their expensive engineering programming software on it to be able to gain access to those machines to manipulate those projects, change those recipes, do updates, patch upgrades, again, which happens rarely, or any feature enhancements. So again, it's like they do half of it. They go at it half-assed, if I can say that, right? Your speed drives, but your laptop's fine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just I and the crazy part is we've had this conversation, other conversations for going on 3 years now, 4 years, whatever it's been. And it's still, I almost view it as still part of the education process. It's like everybody's trying to check a box, but not do anything. And it's easier to say, I have plausible deniability because I don't know, versus it is to do the right thing and truly advance the organization's posture.
Yeah, and well, at the same token, OT is not leading that, right? We see that in our own, right? When you think about the broader engineering integration activities that go on, they're not leading in improving OT cybersecurity hygiene. You can see it in the scope of work, right? You don't see security frameworks necessarily layered in there to say, here's how you operate in my environment, whether it be NIST 882X, take your pick, or IEC 6443. Clients will say that, but when you look at their RFPs, they don't spell it out. What specifically are you trying to tackle in there in that IEC 6443? Because if you tell me that you're following that model, and one of the attributes of a security framework for remote access is that the only people that have access to those control systems and to those specific assets have access. And you and I both know the work that we do when we go out there and do these visibility studies from a cybersecurity perspective, those networks are wide open. I can remote into the South 40 of the plant to go work on some tank farm. And then once I'm in there, I have access all the way across the plant, all the way to the other side out to finished goods as things are coming off the palletizer. So it's like you say one thing, but it's not, you don't practice what you preach, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. And also, it's the supply chain. You often hear the most vulnerable point is the weakest link. And it is. You can, no matter what you have, if your supply chain or you have a gap in your armor, then that's the softest layer, however you look at it. Organizations that have two, three, four-party deep supply chain, it could easily, if it's a critical path in your process, could cripple the organization because of what they are doing and how that affects you and your processes.
Yeah, and I think the reason why it's slow to move, everybody talks about FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt in this case, but the reality is the OT ecosystem is not driving the strategy. They're not driving the strategy, right? The client's not doing it, not well. And the people, their supply chain, who's supplying them these machines and this technology and the support of their manufacturing equipment aren't driving it either. And in most cases, they view it as maybe too expensive, right? We've seen that they way under budget for it. It's just because they haven't had the practice to determine what is it really to take to do this. I got 30 plants in my fleet. What would it realistically take for me to get 100% asset visibility and really understand where I'm at and prioritize those systems that I need to focus on, whether it's into life, into support that I need to get out, or those systems that I really can't replace, but I can definitely move their security posture up several levels, or tackle my remote access in here and do a better job of managing who actually has control, tighter controls to access to this equipment, and have overwatch over all of it, right? Have overwatch over everything going on in that environment with people who know how to interpret what the activity and that data. So you can pivot to the things that are important to help harden that cybersecurity posture and improve your hygiene.
Well, it's you go back to, I guess, two things: the ownership. OT has to start owning this and has to start driving this. Two, the thing that you talked on is the dollars, the cost. Organizations, they want in one hand, but they don't want to pay for in the other hand. And we see it sometimes. We've brought together several, I can think of probably three most recent RFPs where we responded based on what the client asked us to do. They're looking for a quality product. And it got down to the end, and the client said, hey, that's exactly what we're looking for. That's what we want. But we chose somebody that wasn't as expensive, or we chose somebody that didn't cost as much, and they're not going to get, they're choosing where to shave off money to try and meet whatever control they have for the purse strings, and they're setting security aside for maybe it won't happen to us, or maybe we can kick this can down the road for another couple years.
Yeah. They're tripping over dollars to pick up nickels, right? In that particular description that you gave, and it's common, right? And it's common because again, they haven't gone through enough exercises to really understand what's good and what does it cost to have good, right? IT has done that, right? They've done this multiple times. And so they know if they want to replace 40 firewalls across their office setup, whether it's plants or offices, they got a pretty good idea what it's going to take to do that. Once they determine what technology they're going to buy, they know what the hardware and software and maintenance of that stuff's going to cost, the warranty aspect of it, how many teams that they need to take to go do it, and they go deploy. In the manufacturing, that's much more difficult because it's not as standardized, and you have to work around production schedules. It doesn't mean you just get to show up on a Friday night and hope you're going to be done by Monday. It's something that's going to take you a period of time. Again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint to go and actually tackle this because of the size and scope and breadth and the difficulties of working in an industrial environment. When you're just never going to get IT that closely aligned to be able to execute flawlessly in that space. So you're going to have to rely on system integrators, the people that have the OT background who understand that machine and how it runs and what's in it and what it takes to upgrade it or reconfigure it and move you forward, right? And there's weak links on both sides. You talk about you're only as good as you got two of them.
For sure. And one of my favorite things that I hear you say all the time is learning can be painful. And I hope that as organizations go through this, it's not painful in a way where they are choosing to not decide today or not move forward today with something that is the right path forward for a maybe we're okay and it won't happen to us mentality, and it costs them significantly more, which it always does. You see an after breach event, organization open up the book and say, here, you fill in any amount you want to, just make my stuff work again. They don't have an option, they don't have a choice.
And we've seen those that have been breached and had very painful outages that have still dragged their feet and not improved their cybersecurity posture, right? Making the right steps and not going at it from a holistic view. If you look at the IT executives, how many of them actually go to automation shows where they would get a hold of your operations team and go, what events do you go to? Where do you go look for equipment? Who are your major suppliers? They have shows. Go to those venues. See what's going on out there. See who's thinking about cybersecurity. Again, who are their partners? What kind of practice they have? What kind of use case studies do they have? What kind of resources they have? And we just don't see it. We attend those events, and you know which ones where you got IT executives. You get a Gartner group, right, where the CISOs and CIOs hang out. A lot of information, but how does that help you execute? How does that help you execute across a series of a dozen or 30 or 40 or 50 plants throughout your fleet, right? A lot of people will give you great advice, tell you what you should do. It's like me talking to my son. It's like I've been on the planet for 65 years. You've been on the planet 21. There are things that I know that you might want to listen to what I have to say and try to help you, right? Learn how to see around the corner before you run into something you didn't want to run into. But again, it's the same thing. And we also know that the average tenure of a CISO is 24 months, somewhere in there. Again, short timers are not going to pull this off.
No, you're right. Well, there's no reason to. With the ecosystem that's out there today, the SIs that are doing practice like this, like Design Group does, and others, there is no reason to go this path by yourself. I don't care who you are or what industry you're in. There are individuals out there, experienced cybersecurity professionals that can assist, that can provide guidance, that can be there while you, one, want to outsource it like the IT model is, two, want to bring on, hire, train, and run your own operations, which is going to take you a couple of years at best to do that. We can help support, augment, provide that assistance in the process to help get you through that hurdle. So it's there.
It is there. And all the things that we espouse and why we think it's too difficult for either side to really solve this. I mean, those are real problems. And so recognize that. And so what are you going to do about it? right? Recognizing that your IT guys can't get you want to go in that industrial environment. Recognize your OT people aren't going to improve the cybersecurity hygiene that you'd like to see, right? So two things can be right at the same time. And in that particular case, that is the scenario and painted in most cases, right? I mean, I can't espouse it enough because we see it. We live it every day. I read through proposals that are going out the door, and it's like you just aren't asking the right questions, or the client isn't asking for the right requirements to be met.
Yep, 100% true. I think we still got a lot of work to do, though. We're making progress, slow, not quite as quick as I'd like to see. Maybe if you're trying to go down this road, reach out. If you got questions, we can help answer them, provide some guidance. Don't try and figure this out on your own, but you got to do something. You can't just ignore it.
Yep. You hope the right people are listening to your message. If they are, and they don't like it, tell us what it is you don't like about it.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree.
Like, we're not saying we're 100% right. We spend a lot of time swimming in these lanes, know quite a bit. I'd love the debate, right? Is anybody that wants to push back too hard, thinking that they got a better idea, and we've already researched that 7 ways to Sunday and get it? That's just one person's opinion. Why don't you want the east-west traffic? Why don't you want asset inventory levels 2 and 3 and 1 in your manufacturing environment? So anyway, I think there's, but it's got a long hill to climb.
It does. It's got a long way to go. Great conversation. Perfect. Thanks, Dino. Appreciate it.
Yeah. See you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Industrial Cybersecurity Insider. To stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to click the follow or subscribe button now. And if you found this podcast helpful or have a topic you'd like us to discuss, please leave us a review or let us know. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.